To the Carmichael Dave Show with Jason Ross.
His voice is synonymous with Bay Area sports.
Touchdown! San Francisco!
Here's the voice of the San Francisco 49ers, Greg Papa.
My favorite time of the week. Missed them last week. But you know what? They won. But you know what?
You took one for the team?
Yeah, but...
Terrible news.
Terrible news. Yeah. Joining us right now, the voice of the Niners, which is wonderful news for us, Greg Papa. Greg, good morning. How are you?
David, where were you last week?
I was in Scottsdale. I was a friend's birthday they do every year. I was in Scottsdale where it was hot, playing golf and watch my team, and I was happy they won. I was happy for Jimmy. I don't know how else to say that because he's been so classy, but gutted for Trey Lance, and I expect that probably matches just about everybody's feelings.
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, it happens in sports. We've seen it in all the sports over the years. It's a little different when it's the quarterback. It's a little different when it's a 22-year-old quarterback just beginning his home opener in a brand new career as a first-time full-time starter in the NFL. And the nature of the injury was gruesome. You can see the ankle, pointing different directions, the players reacting the way they did. Dr. Tim McAdams coming out immediately saying it's fractured and calling for the card, so you knew it was severe. And then the guy that's going to come in and play for him is Jimmy Garoppolo, which is just strange offseason into training camp, the whole deal. We've gone through it since February 1st all the way through when they brought him back on August 29th. And then to see him play and to play so well, I was conflicted how, to get excited, how much did I get excited when Garoppolo threw the touchdown pass to Ross Dwelly, and I gave it a welcome back Jimmy, but Ryan appropriately jumped in. I'm not going to say feel great, baby, Jimmy's line from 2019, because it didn't. It felt weird, but that's why Jimmy's on the team. That's who Jimmy is as a person to allow this to happen. And you got to push on. And then they played great. I mean, they just dominated the game. The running game was great. It's different with Jimmy under center more than Trey in the shotgun and pistol. The defense is just off to a historic start. I mean, they are locked in the first 2 weeks. A lot of penalties in Chicago. Obviously, they cleaned that up, just one on Sunday. And so just the whole thing. And Jimmy's play was great. And I think he's going to play even better. He's throwing the ball exceedingly well. And then the gun goes and you win. And now it's what happened to Trey. And then you find out, in fact, what you thought, that it is a fractured fibula, got some ligament disruption in there, and he's going to be out the year. So, the reality sets in, but they're in good hands. Jimmy Garoppolo can clearly lead this team, there's no doubt. And then Brock Purdy behind him played really well in the preseason. He is decisive with where to go with the ball, and he's extremely accurate. So everybody has great faith in Brock if something should happen to Jimmy, but you don't want that to happen. I mean, that's the whole reason I wanted two quarterbacks on this roster is they get hurt a lot, both Trey and Jimmy. And you didn't think it would be before the fifth quarter was over in the home opener, Dave, that you would lose Trey. But, it was a bittersweet Sunday for sure.
Greg, I know the decision makers don't have to decide anything about this now, but, I know they chose Trey Lance. They wanted to see a large sample size. We saw some of what he can do. As they look down the line, when they have to make that decision, just the lack of reps for him, how much of an impact will that have on what they kind of think that quarterback position will look like in the future?
Well, I thought, Jason, he played really well. I mean, the ball he threw to Brandon Ayuk, the outcut, and then Brandon caught it and spun down the right sideline for a big yards after catch of 31 yards. That's the kind of ball placement he's got to get better at. Don't miss him inside. Don't make him reach for it. Bill Walsh, half a body, outside hand, in the box, in the pocket, and the great ball. He was playing well. And then this happened. So he was starting to develop. Right now, he's just got to get healthy, both physically first and mentally. He's never been hurt like this before. And I'm sure he woke up Monday morning and he's, I'm not getting ready for the Denver Broncos. I'm getting ready to go into surgery. And then the reality, he wanted to travel. He asked Kyle if he could travel to Denver with us today, but he can't because of the swelling. So we got a home game against the Rams. Then after that, I'll probably go with the team to Charlotte and the Greenbrier, Atlanta. So he'll be around. He'll be in every meeting. He's a hard worker. He was an extremely hard worker last year as a backup. He'll be a hard worker. And then as far as, where he's at, what's the timeline, I don't know. They've ruled him out for the year. As long as he gets back for the OTAs, he's able to fully function and take part when they hit the field in May and do everything in May and June and then be ready to go in July. There's no question this hurts his development. This is 3 straight years now, the COVID year 2020, last year when he essentially played only 10 quarters. And then this year, he didn't even make it to the 5th quarter of the second game. So, he hasn't played a lot of football for 3 years, so that's going to be hard to make up. But he's smart. The big thing is he's never been injured like this. So how does he handle it mentally and physically? He's going to be down. But he's got guys, Nick Bosa, Jimmy Garoppolo. They've come back from torn ACL, so they know the dark days that he's going to face, and they can help make him a little sunnier for him.
Greg Papa, voice of the 49ers, joining us. So we've known each other long enough. You know where my heart is here, so I don't mean to misspeak. When Trey Lance went down, I was trying to find a way to say this, that it sounded like the locker room was behind him, but that they'd walk through fire for Jimmy G, and that Trey had to earn that respect that the locker room had for Jimmy G. Guys like you, guys like Eric Armstead were very vocal about how much the team loved Jimmy. So in no way am I trying to say like the team was happy or the locker room was happy, but there had to be some sort of the first time Jimmy got back in the huddle, like in the movies, I imagine he's like, guys, this sucks, but hey, clear heads, let's go, let's do this. And it almost invigorated them. Is there a way for me, Greg, I'm stumbling to say that the team was somehow invigorated by having Jimmy back and at the same time sad that Trey was hurt?
Yeah, so I don't know if invigorated is the right word.
Yeah.
It was a calming, it's like you get terrible news. Something's happened to a loved one. And, bedside manners is important, how someone tells you that, whether it's a doctor. In this case, it's your older brother. It's Jimmy Garoppolo that tells you, Trey's hurt. I'm here. I mean, it would have been, and I like Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy can win with this team. He is decisive and he is accurate. And if you have those two things and make good decisions in the NFL, you can play quarterback. And with this defense and running game, he can win. But he hasn't played with these guys really. And this is Jimmy Garoppolo. He's been to the Super Bowl with them. He's been to the championship game with them. This is Jimmy. So when he gets in there, and usually when the backup quarterback comes in the game, the cadence is off a little bit and you got to feel it out. I mean, right away, when he said, Red 18, Garoppolo's back. It's like, here we go. So it's just, what would have happened had, somebody traded for him? Somebody said, if you cut him, you are going to keep him. So we'll trade for him. I watched Cleveland last night, and they played great. They got a great running game. They got a great defense. Amari Cooper looks terrific. Jacoby Brissett's a nice player. But you put Jimmy Garoppolo on that team, that's a loaded AFC, and they're right there until Deshaun comes back. They didn't want to do that. So, great. Jimmy's still here. So I'm not going to speak for them because I think every individual has his own beliefs on this. But it's not like they're going to play differently or they're happy Jimmy's here and Trey. None of that. It's just different. The team functions differently. The end result and the end goals are the same. Trey is very likable. They like Trey. He's not done anything wrong here. He's never had a misspeak or a misstep. The guy's a hard worker. Jimmy's a more accurate thrower of the football. Jimmy's more decisive. The ball comes out on time. Jimmy's not going to run like Trey. So you're going to have a little bit of a different running game. It's going to be more under center as opposed to shotgun and pistol, which change the angles on things. They can still be very effective, but it's different. So as far as, the mentality and all that, I think that's the individual. But these guys are professional athletes, Dave. Like, for instance, last week you weren't on the show. I was disappointed initially to find out you weren't going to be on the show. And then Jason and I, we did the hell with him. We don't need Dave.
That's right.
Ready, you're a pro. Whoever's your quarterback, you play for your quarterback. And they are very different in just about every way, the way they play. Jimmy's much more comfortable in his own skin. Trey's feeling out, the job. He's learning it. It's just, let's just say that this is, for a while, this franchise had Steve backing up Joe and Steve Bono backing up the two of them. And you're like, wow. It was just very fortunate that Jimmy Garoppolo got back on this roster and could lead this football team while Trey mends. And I think that's how they feel.
Greg Papa, voice of the Niners, joining us each and every week. Mile High this weekend, a reunification of a rivalry of sorts, but one of the guys wearing a different jersey. We're looking forward to it, Greg. See if we can't get 2-1.
Russell Wilson.
Yes.
Wow, 17-4 against the 49ers, Dave, in Seattle, but he looks different in orange. They're going to wear blue on Sunday. Their whole offense right now is discombobulated. They're having a hard time getting a playoff in time. Nathaniel Hackett, their new head coach, son of Paul Hackett. We know him well. He was with the 49ers and Bill Walsh in the 80s, and Al Davis hired him in the late 2000s with the Raiders, loved him. His son, who I kept an eye on for a while, so they're having a hard adjustment. But Russ seems a little unsettled. His feet aren't settled in the pocket. I don't think they're going to have Jerry Jeudy in this game. He's going to miss, but they got Cortland Sutton. They got weapons. They got a good running back. When you go to Denver right away, and I went there so many times with the Raiders, is you think about the altitude and, might they jump into a no huddle to kind of wear you out a little bit, trap someone like Javon Kinlaw on the field and not let them get off the field at all. They may be thinking that because they're having a hard time getting the play snapped in 40 seconds. So maybe we let Russ cook a little bit and just do it more at the line of scrimmage and let him just run a check with me to get it going. So it's funny, we played Seattle last week and beat them, and now you got Russell Wilson this week. And I'm just glad that NBC picked this game and they put it on Sunday Night Football, and specifically they put it on week 3. You want to play Denver early in the year while they're still figuring it out with Russ and the new coaching staff. You don't, later in the year, like say week 13, you don't want to be playing these guys. You want to play them in week 3. So that's a break.
Have a wonderful call this week.
Yes,
sir. We'll talk to you in a week. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good week, guys. We'll talk next week.
Take care. That is